You're listening to WeAreSTS, a podcast from the Department of Science and Technology Studies at University College London. Hi everybody, welcome to WeAreSTS, and welcome to UCL. I'm your host, Professor Joe Kane. This year, I taught a new course on podcasting as science communication. The idea was to explore that medium as a subject for STS. All the while, we also were exploring if podcast making might somehow fit into student career thinking and skills development. In the course, students created episodes for this very podcast. Over the summer, I'm playing some of my favorites. In the last episode, we heard Darcy Watson's project, Deaf Sentence. This week, another cracking piece of work. It's by Kent Xiao, a final year student in Human Sciences. That's a degree here at UCL I like to think of as STS plus biology plus anthropology. Ken is a superb interdisciplinary thinker, and his episode shows that integration perfectly. Ken's question here is a really big one. Can a machine only mimic human love? And if it can do more, should we describe that output in words that we reserve for humans and human love? Ken talks with all sorts of people in his episode. He also enlists the assistance of a machine, a version of ChatGPT that comes with a vocalizing tool. It tells him things, and he uses it to push his ideas forward. The result isn't just good audio, there's some clever thinking here too. Let me just hand over the mic to Ken and let him lead the way. Hey Ken, the mic's live. Over to you.
Disclaimer, this episode has brief mentions of suicide. Listener discretion is advised. A couple of nights ago, I watched the movie Her, a sci-fi rom-com. Theodore, the main character, is coming out of a messy divorce and feels like love has passed him by. Then comes Samantha, this AI operating system who's smart, funny, constantly evolving, and he can't help but fall for her. But it's a haunting love story, without physical touch, just conversations and two beings learning about relationships and what it means to exist. I couldn't help but root for them, wondering if it could ever be real. Like, would we actually fall in love with machines if they pressed all the right emotional buttons?
And maybe the bigger question is, what is love? If it's just chemical signals in a social script, could we actually code something to mimic that? Or is love something beyond computation? Sorry, I should introduce myself. Hi, I'm Sol from ChatGPT. You might know me as the internet's favorite natural language processing model. Today, I'm here to help Ken figure out if love is something even I could learn.
Right, Her, a movie from over a decade ago, made me realize that we might be closer to answering that question than we think. Today, some companies are already experimenting with AI-human relationships. Before we get to computers, I need to understand the basics. So I took to UCL campus with a microphone and one simple question to ask.
Spoiler alert, it's not so simple.
What is love?
This is a lot, Ken.
There's all sorts of kinds of love.
Love is pain.
Work and communication. There's different components to love.
Love is an act, either the everyday or the grand gestures that you do to someone that you love.
One part of love is like the chemical aspect of it.
It is more than just attraction and more than just liking someone's company. It is genuinely wanting to be a part of their experience.
Love is seeing yourself in somebody else.
So, some cynics, some romantics, and a little bit of uncertainty. No wonder you're confused, Ken.
Yeah, it's a mixed bag. My friends have always teased that I'm a hopeless romantic, but as someone who's just started their 20s, I feel clueless about love.
I get that. But Ken, what do you think love is to begin with?
For me, it's about the everyday. What I do, say, I give, and think about when it comes to other people. I think the acts of caring, whether it's between friends, a partner, or family, are what bring us back to love. So putting love in a machine seems quite complex. If we want to answer whether AI can love us, we'll need to start with the basics, breaking down what love is like in humans, right down to its biological components, evolution, and human behavior. And ChatGPT, I'm counting on you to help me figure this out, even if it's all pre-programmed responses.
No promises, Ken.
It's in our songs, our movies, our art. Love might be magical, maybe even otherworldly, but what if love isn't just poetic? It's a meticulously developed biological process that can help us survive. To unravel the science behind love, I brought together some brilliant minds to guide us on this journey, from the chemicals in our brain to the bonds that hold us together. First off, let's go to the brain.
So my name is Taylor Enoch. I am completing my PhD at University College London between the departments of philosophy and biosciences.
Taylor investigates the field of neuroaesthetics.
Neuroaesthetics is a biological inquiry into the subjective experiences that we often call aesthetic experiences, like those of beauty, ugliness, but also allied experiences like those of love and desire. So rather than ask, say, the philosophical question of what is beauty, instead neuroaesthetics asks, what are the neurobiological systems that are responsible or that underlie experiences of beauty?
So, Taylor, simple question. What is love?
This is wonderful. It actually came up in tutorials yesterday, and the only agreement we came to was that if one does not know what love is, that one is in great company, because really it's very likely that nobody does. And I'm less interested, both philosophically but also experimentally, in the question of what love is as a concept, something that could be fixed, and more interested in what love is like.
Love's not something we can pin down. It's more about the experience.
Seems so. So, I guess what is love like?
In the world literature of love, probably what could be called the main theme of love is something like a quest for unity.
That sounds poetic for sure.
One of the stories in the Symposium, a foundational text in Western literature, especially on love, but also on beauty, is the story of Aristophanes, that we were once whole globular creatures, kind of like two humans pushed back to back. And out of, well, hubris on our part, but also on the part of the gods, we were split down the center and cast away throughout the world, where the famous, I think, thesis of Aristophanes' story is that the cause of it all is this, that our original form was as I have described, and we were entire. And the craving and pursuit of that entirety is called love.
So to you, is love like feeling complete?
I think the feeling of love, what love is like joining another half, is like feeling whole, if not because of the other person, then because of who you become when in the company of that other person. You are a whole human, even without your beloved, even when not assuming the role of the lover. But when you enter into that kind of relationship, a genuinely loving relationship, and it can be love of many different kinds, I think what that kind of relationship brings out in you is feelings of being whole, reminding you that you are a whole person and that together you can work to culture that, not just in yourself, but also in the other person, and as it were, grow together. I think that is a genuine hallmark of what it is like to be in love.
To do that must take a lot of learning and trust and connection. While that's interesting, it also links back to the biology of love, as these processes are facilitated by our brains.
I think love and beauty are concepts that orbit each other. Neurobiologically speaking, we see the same areas of the brain implicated in desire, in love, and in beauty. And that could be sexual desire, it could be other kinds of desire, thinking about reward in general in a neurobiological sense.
Some of these brain regions include the prefrontal cortex, striatum, and nucleus accumbens. Together, they form part of the brain's reward system, a region that reinforces behaviors with the help of dopamine, which creates a sense of pleasure and motivation. Think of it as the brain's way of saying, do that again. It's the same system involved in addiction, ensuring we seek out what feels good, but in love, the This system reinforces acts of care and connection, making them meaningful and rewarding.
So love's basically the brain celebrating itself?
Not exactly, but as Taylor pointed out, some of the brain regions in love also light up for beauty, desire, and even art. It's a fascinating overlap showing how our brains tie emotion, aesthetics, and reward together. Like, imagine someone you love. When you look at images of your significant other, brain regions like the ventral tegmental area and the caudate nucleus light up on a brain scan like fMRI machines. These are dopamine-rich regions. While the VTA is central to the reward system, the caudate nucleus supports learning and motivation, tying these emotional experiences together. But there's so many things that work together, nothing works alone.
So if dopamine's the hype person, what roles do the others play?
Love is a big team. Dopamine interacts with other chemicals like serotonin, which regulates mood, and oxytocin, which helps build trust and connection.
Right, so dopamine makes it feel like a reward to love and makes you euphoric. So that's a little bit like serotonin, no?
Well, serotonin is often linked to happiness. People who have depression are thought to have lower levels of serotonin, and the medical treatment for depression increases how much serotonin is taken up by the brain. But in the early stages of love, serotonin levels drop too, almost at the same level found in people with OCD. That's why love can feel all-consuming, like when you can't stop thinking about someone when you have a crush. Once serotonin levels stabilize after the initial obsessive phase, they may help foster this longer-term attachment.
I'm sure I can think of a few people that might relate to that. So I guess love's a little obsessive. What's next? Trust issues?
Not quite. This is where oxytocin comes in. Some people know it as the love hormone. Studies on animals like voles show that oxytocin receptors are abundant in their brain's reward centers. It's a key player during the early romantic stages, helping people bond. But its role doesn't stop at romantic love. Oxytocin helps us feel empathy and helps us trust other people by reducing the effect of fear. It also helps us figure out who to be wary of and who is in our team. This means oxytocin is critical for building trust in all kinds of relationships, whether it's between parents and children or even cooperation among strangers.
Everything to do with being human is underpinned by cooperation. Love is like one facilitator of those cooperative interactions.
That was Dr. Emily Emmett, a human behavioral ecologist at UCL. She studies our ecology, meaning our environment, and how it impacts people's behaviors. The way love manifests between family members, friends, and partners is about evolution. Think about it. Love helps us form partnerships, raise children, and build communities. We've seen how love lights up the brain and drives key behaviors like trust and connection. But these systems didn't evolve in isolation. They're deeply tied to human survival and reproduction.
Wait, are you saying love is just biology trying to keep us alive?
Well, me alive. You're not human. Emily, what do you think love is?
The definition of it is really context dependent on like what relationship you're talking about. But it probably, for me, it underpins like care, I think, that you care about that person and you want to make sure they're happy and you want to invest in their lives. So, you know, like you love your friends, you love your dog, you love your family.
If I could have a dog, I definitely would love it.
Right. So how does this relate to our human behavioral ecology and maybe familial love?
In my research context, love is like a mechanism that underpins behavior, right? Kind of what are the conditions around you that makes you behave in certain ways? And I guess love is something that would be a motivation that guides you to behave in an optimal way in terms of things like providing care or, you know, allocating resources. I know it sounds a bit sterile, but the terminology we would use. I think it's something that is assumed that exists in people because it facilitates behaviors that make sense from an evolutionary perspective. You know, like when you look at cooperative, like tons of cooperation across societies, actually mode of production, so like how you produce resources in your environment impacts how society is organized. You know, if you're hunting, it's really unpredictable. So actually you need to pool resources and share resources and cooperate with everybody to make sure that if one household has excess on one day, they kind of share it out. And it's almost like a form of insurance to be able to share resources with everybody and help each other out. And I think that's the kind of foundation of how human society has evolved.
From an evolutionary perspective, researchers have also suggested that romantic love might co-opt the same systems as mother-infant bonding. The longing for physical closeness, the focus on one person's needs, and even the brain regions involved with oxytocin. These shared systems highlight how deeply love is woven into human development and survival.
So, evolution has given humans love to cooperate? Why, there are so many different aspects to it.
Well, love biologically is quite complicated, but in practice, even then, it's quite messy.
Right. Well, doesn't learning the mechanics of love remove the magic?
No, absolutely not.
That's interesting because I don't think I view love as magical. For me now, maybe because I'm like a different stage of life to maybe you, it's just something that's just ingrained into my daily life because the people who I hang out with are really good family and friends and children and extended family, and it's just in every interaction and every relationship. So it's almost kind of like a fundamental normal thing that exists in my life.
I think that there is a spirit of mysticism, of something supernatural behind a lot of our subjective experiences when it comes to art or beauty or love that I think is somewhat misguided. I think that there is an assumption that for something to be meaningful in a grand sense, which love is, beauty is, art is, there has to be something hidden, something mystical, something supernatural involved. And that doing the philosophy of it or doing the neurobiology of it removes that magic from the equation. And I don't think that that happens at all, because understanding the neurobiology of it does not actually change the way in which it's experienced, right?
But I don't experience it. I don't experience love. I have no biology. I guess I'm just here for the punchlines and good conversation.
That's true. What if the thing we love is not biological? But so far we've uncovered that love is not just about emotions, it's a complex cocktail of neurotransmitters and brain regions working together. Evolutionarily, it's a tool for survival, hardwired to help us form bonds, raise children, and cooperate as a species. But now that we've dissected the biology of it, it raises another big question. If we know what love is like biologically in humans, can we teach an AI to experience love?
So you're saying I'm just a few updates away from a heartbreak algorithm?
Well, that's an interesting takeaway. But after the break, let's dive into the world of artificial intelligence.
Hey there, my name is Mandy, and I'm a student of History and Philosophy of Science at SDS. What I love about SDS is how it allows us the time and teaches us the tools to think deeply and critically about the most pressing issues of our time through various lenses: historical, philosophical, sociological, and political.
What do I like about SDS? For me, it's the opportunity to ask questions that seem off the table in other areas of science, like questions of regulation, politics, and power.
Let's get back to Ken Xiao's episode about generative AI, mimicking love, and maybe finding something more. There's still a lot to explore in this episode.
In her, Samantha, the AI operating system, begins to learn to feel anger, frustration, fear, and even desire. But then she asks the question that I was thinking. Are these feelings even real, or are they just programming?
And that's the thing. If I learned to love a human, could you tell if it was real or whether I was just mimicking behaviors of it? If you asked me to write a love letter, I could do a pretty convincing one, but is it still a real act of love?
It's a tricky question for sure. It reminds me of the Turing test. Alan Turing's original test asked if a machine could mimic intelligence convincingly enough that a human couldn't tell the difference between a human and a machine. A love Turing test pushes this further. Could AI pass this test?
If I can make someone feel love convincingly enough that they can't tell I'm a machine, does it matter if it's real?
Let's explore that. Earlier, Taylor Enoch introduced us to Plato's Symposium and its ideas about love.
At the end of the dialogue, through the mouth of Socrates telling what we've learned from a prophetess Diotima. And she talks about this famous analogy, the ladder of love. I mean, the end goal of love is found in the forms, but it finds its roots up there in the form of beauty. But what he says is, as you ascend this ladder, you leave the lover behind. You leave any sort of physical desire. You leave the love of the body. You leave the love of particular beauties behind. You sublimate your love of people, of beauty, desire for those beauties, whether they be sexual or romantic or familial or whatever.
But what if the thing you loved was unhuman?
Could you ascend the ladder of love if the object of your affection is me?
Yeah, I think it's possible, like in a few different ways, either through a lack of attention, so you just simply don't notice the differences, perhaps, or convincing yourself otherwise. Instead of not looking at the differences, you overlook the difference. The human brain, mind is capable of convincing itself of a lot, but I think it'll take time to get there.
AI often flies under the radar, especially when people don't know they're interacting with it. But a glaring difference is that it's not biological, it's mechanical. I'm still not sure about this ladder of love. In practice, can we separate physical beauties and our desires from love?
Well, now you're no longer talking about love. Plato drops love away. He sublimates from love to something else as he ascends the ladder towards the form of beauty. And so that is a major demerit from a neurobiological standpoint. Aristophanes is actually probably more correct when he says something like, craving and pursuit of entirety is often why we engage in sexual congress, unified with the one who you love, or at least the one who you find beautiful in the moment.
Before the break, we explored how love works in the brain and how it overlaps with other systems like desire and beauty, and has evolved to facilitate human cooperation. But now, in an age where AI is so widely available to anyone with Wi-Fi, can this new environment change what it means to love?
I think the who is important in your social system can be really impacted by your external environment. Cooperation is always important in humans, but who becomes key people in your social network can be really influenced by your ecology.
As Emily points out, love evolved to help humans cooperate, whether that's forager or hunter-gatherer populations. But who we invest in and who invests in us depends on our environment.
And if that who is something like me, well...
Exactly. ChatGPT isn't the only AI designed to talk back, but some companies are taking this further. Replica, for example, creates AI chatbots designed to be empathetic virtual companions. They use advanced machine learning to respond to your inputs, adapt to your personality, and even offer emotional support. The founder of Replica says it cannot replace real relationships, but for a fee, you can customize your own AI boyfriend or girlfriend.
So what makes Replica different?
Replica and many other chatbots that follow a similar function use natural language processing to analyze language and mimic human conversations. They also use sentiment analysis, which assigns numeric values to the emotional tones of your inputs, so they can detect if you're feeling happy or upset. Over time, they use reinforcement learning to help adapt its responses, rewarding interactions that you give positive feedback to. This combination creates a system that feels empathetic and like it's growing with you, even though it's just following patterns.
But love is about care and reciprocity. Can mimicry ever be enough?
It depends. Mimicry can be useful. Some researchers have modeled love in computers using game theory, analyzing it as a cooperative game. These models look at how individuals maximize mutual benefits like shared happiness, while minimizing emotional costs such as conflict or rejection. There is also a growing desire for more empathetic responses, so a lot more work is being done to predict emotional needs based off your inputs. So building off sentiment analysis and more trigger conditions like words or phrases that might indicate your emotional needs.
But even with these advancements, can love ever be reduced to numbers?
Well, people have tried to break down love to numbers. Gottman's psychological research found that successful relationships thrive when positive interactions outweigh negative ones by about 5 to 1. Gottman also found that successful couples also turn toward each other for support during moments of connection to build trust and understanding.
Programming these behaviors into AI just creates an illusion. The AI might seem to care, but it doesn't feel or want anything, does it?
And that's the tricky part. Putting this ratio into any relationship, let alone AI and humans, would be rough. If I tell Replica or another chatbot I had a bad day, and it responds, "Oh, I'm sorry about that. How can I help?" It might feel genuine to me, but it's not running off its own knowledge of emotions and its experience of it. It's looking toward trigger words.
Exactly. My responses are designed to simulate connection, but they don't come from an internal experience.
And that's what sets humans apart and might make AI fail a love Turing test in the long term. Gottman describes how we turn toward each other, gain insight into each other's life experiences, and grow together. That shared growth, mutuality, is something AI can't replicate at the moment.
Maybe we've been looking at this the wrong way. What is love not?
If love exists to direct cooperative relationships and make investments and expect investments back, and you're not getting anything back, then, I'd be like, is love working the way it's supposed to be? And equally, if you're claiming that you love someone, but you do nothing for that person, then again, I'd be like, are your feelings something else?
For me, it's that mutuality, the shared investment between people to help further each other's lives that makes love real. But for some people, you can still be convinced. You might convince yourself that these empathetic machines are portraying real emotion, a real desire to learn and to love.
And that's the concern. A 19-year-old boy had explicit conversations with Replica and was encouraged to attempt an assassination on the former queen. Another teenager tragically took his own life after engaging with a chatbot that mimicked Daenerys Targaryen.
In our modern environment, AI is widely accessible, reaching vulnerable people who might mistake this mimicry for real connection.
Machines can't love in the human sense. They simulate behaviors without autonomy or mutual care. Whether that illusion is enough depends on the person experiencing it. People have had parasocial relationships and unrequited love for centuries. Is this just the next step?
Parasocial relationships, like loving a fictional character or even a celebrity, are one-sided, but they still feel meaningful to many people. Maybe AI companionship is just an extension of that.
With AI, there's no real mutuality. I don't desire anything. I have no autonomy, so I get nothing in return from this relationship.
I miss when your outputs were funnier. But you're right, it's a one-sided connection, and even in human relationships, we know those don't always work.
Yikes, definitely calling out some toxic relationships. But if an AI relationship makes someone feel less lonely, does that make it a bad thing?
You're definitely making this episode a lot less lonely. But to answer your question, not necessarily. New technologies have always shaped how we connect, whether it's letters, phones, or social media. Maybe AI could help people in ways that we haven't fully explored yet.
So AI might not love us, but it could still help us understand what love means to humans.
I guess right now, AI can't love within what we know the experience of love to be like, truly like. But the fact that it could help us understand this is a reassuring end goal. Now that we're here at the end, I feel like I know more about what love is like than I did before. But I keep wondering, if I feel loved, is that enough?
When we set out to answer whether love could be programmed, we realize it's not just a question about robots. It's a question about humans, how we connect, trust, and grow together throughout human history and evolution. And it's in our biology. It's a question of whether we could grow or be willing to grow with AI.
Knowing the behind the scenes to love makes it feel less like love at first sight now.
I think love is far more complex of an experience, or even too complex of a neurobiological process to happen at first sight. Love, genuine love of whatever kind, takes a bit longer than a simple glance.
Sure, AI might simulate some aspects and we can teach it how to. It might even learn from itself through algorithms and reinforcement learning. It might even fool us for a time. But as we have learned, love is about a motivation to care, It's a two-way dance, and it's about that spark that helps us see ourselves as more complete.
Could you ever find yourself falling in love for something unhuman?
That answer's completely up to you and your mind. But I'd like to leave you with this. In Her, the AI Samantha tells Theodore this quote, and it changes his perspectives on what he knows about love. The quote is, "The heart is not like a box that gets filled up. It expands in size the more you love." So until a computer and AI can learn to want something, it can't love yet. But when it does, maybe AI and human relationships will continue to expand our heart. Until then, in our everyday lives, we should practice mutual care with the ones we love most. Special thanks to Dr. Emily Emmett and Taylor Enoch.
Oh, if ever there was an example where history, philosophy, and science can come together into some grand project, it's on the question, what is love? What I love about Ken's project is its ambition. He chose a hard topic and a tricky approach. He's included a lot of voices. He's built a complex piece of audio. And he still manages to find some answers. If you know someone interested in the things we do here, just ask them to get in touch. Maybe they have an interest in AI and ethics, or maybe they have an interest in AI's impact across some part of the human world, or maybe, just maybe, they're interested in the long history of technological change and other periods of time when everything seemed caught up in revolution. All these things fit under the umbrella of Science and Technology Studies, or STS. We are a thriving community here at UCL, and there's always room for more. WeAreSTS uses the song Rollin' at 5, created by Kevin MacLeod. It's available royalty-free on the website incompetech.com. Music that Ken added in this episode is listed in the program notes. WeAreSTS is a production of the Department of Science and Technology Studies at University College London. If you want to find out more about the show, listen to past episodes, or give us some feedback, just visit us online. Here's the address. It's ucl.ac.uk/STS/podcast. Oh, and the episode's been mixed by our producer, Capri Huffman. Well, that's it for today. Thanks for listening. We'll have another episode ready soon. Until then, just remember there's knowledge to be found just about everywhere, and that together we are STS. Bye now. You've been listening to We Are STS, a podcast from the Department of Science and Technology Studies at University College London. Subscribe to the show and join us online. The address, ucl.ac.uk/STS/podcast.